I am lost in the dark. I am surrounded. They are everywhere, on every surface, the scuttling horde. They surround me in the dark, voraciously hungry, marching on their stomachs.
This is the story of a hidden underground world. It is a home of twisted beauty, haven to a variety of weird inhabitants, but hostile to others. In these caves, something is emerging. And as our planet plummets towards the next great mass extinction, there are lessons to be learned from creatures that outlasted the dinosaurs and the splitting of the continents.
I have no choices left. All my instincts are invaded. I am lost in the dark.
I would be sick if I found that in my bath.
There's something just scary about them.
How big is that? Is that to scale? Seriously?
That's life size. Oh my God, oh my.
Our research took us into some really surprising and somewhat kinky places. The sex life of giant prehistoric spiders the size of a dinner plate. It doesn't get any sexier than that.
Dinner plate? Ah!
In our fast-paced world of constant communication, it's easy to think we know it all. But our planet is in trouble. Pollution, habitat loss, climate change. We've all heard the terms that are pushing species to extinction faster than at any time since the disappearance of the dinosaurs, with species being lost 100 times faster than the normal rate. A message of hope comes from an unlikely hero. A creature that has survived previous mass extinctions in a magical ecosystem. To find it, we need to travel to a hidden jewel at the end of the earth. The island of Tasmania. The great southern island of Tasmania is a natural historian's dream. A gateway to the Southern Ocean and Antarctica, it is among the most stunning and mountainous islands in the world. Its vast southwest wilderness meets the equal highest number of criteria for World Heritage listing of anywhere on the planet. It contains biological and geological holdovers from when the continents were joined in the supercontinent of Gondwana, linking the natural histories of New Zealand, Antarctica, Australia and South America. Tasmania boasts some of the tallest sea cliffs in the world, and its primordial forests include some of the oldest trees and largest intact stretches of temperate rainforest in the southern hemisphere. There are trees older than the time of Christ, and others that supply the world's best boat building timbers. There are forests that grow sideways. There is also the tallest flowering plant on the planet, which challenges even the giant redwoods in terms of height. There is the real-life Tasmanian devil. One of the world's largest true eagles can be found here. The giant freshwater crayfish, the largest freshwater invertebrate on the planet. Platypus that grow larger than elsewhere in Australia. And hidden in the undergrowth is a marsupial mouse that mates until it dies of exhaustion. But its natural values give it special global significance. This World Heritage Area contains rocks from almost every geological period, dating back 1 billion years. It is one of the largest conservation reserves in Australia, one of the largest temperate wilderness areas, and one of the last remaining expanses of temperate rainforest in the southern hemisphere.
I am lost in the dark. How? How did I get here? My memory is drowned by an overpowering song. I'm compelled to follow. I remember hearing her song out in the mountains, echoing ever so distant among the ravines, drawing me through the deep forest and its prehistoric growths and shapes and tangles, past its guardians, ancient and raucous, monstrous and silent, furtive, familiar, strange.
Tasmania, well, here we are in an island at the end of the earth. Australia is the most isolated of the world's continents. It's the island continent that's separated from Gondwana, drifted across the oceans for many millions of years. And down at the south end of the continent of Australia, we have the island of Tasmania, consequently perhaps the most isolated place on earth.
Having lost the Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, the island's unique wildlife still holds extraordinary draw cards.
I think Tasmania is just such a fascinating place that if you are looking for a really bizarre spider, I think probably that'd be my address #1 to go and look for it.
So down here we've got all sorts of interesting stuff in an island about the size of Scotland, at about the same latitude as Boston or Puerto Montt in Chile. So many animals and plants and vegetation and environments in Tasmania that are not found anywhere else in the world.
If Tasmania was in Europe, you know, an island off the side of it, it would be its own country. And the rest of Europe would talk about how amazing this little country is and how weird it is because they've got animals that no one else has got.
Tasmania is a place I love to go and a place I love to hike and has incredible natural wonders.
The climate and the people are like the mainland Australia with all the rough edges sort of sanded off slightly.
There's forests and dense foliage everywhere.
I have heard of Tasmania, principally, of course, through the cartoon, The Tasmanian Devil.
And they spin around and eat furniture in one go, according to the documents I've researched.
Everything is bigger in Tasmania. Like, I think it's just because like the water is purer, like everything is just like lush and green. So I feel like it's almost like Jurassic Park.
Did I know anything about the mother-ass big spiders in caves? Not a bit.
Not many people have heard of them, which makes them, I think, the most hipster spider of all Australian wildlife. Yeah, you probably haven't heard about them yet.
The Tasmanian cave spider is a new one on me. The devil and the tiger were the most famous and best-known Tasmanian animals, as far as I know, apart from Errol Flynn.
Has no one mentioned drop bears in this documentary? That is amazing.
I'd never known anything about the Aboriginal history here before, and to find out that it goes back 40,000 years, right?
Yeah, 40
it's
plus.
It's just like, it's amazing.
It feels old. It feels ancient here.
Imagine that there were big ice sheets sitting on top of the high country. There were glaciers flowing down the valleys. The rainforest just captured little pockets on the river valleys. There were icebergs floating up the coast of Tasmania. You know, imagine that people were actually living in the most southerly part of the whole globe at that time. But what remarkable, tenacious people our ancestors were. Our Tasmanian Aboriginal heritage runs very strong through our veins, in our DNA.
The term wilderness has different meanings for different people and needs to consider ancient connections with Australia's first people.
I see it as a place where we lived and hunted and gathered and danced and sang because we have that relationship that goes back for 2,000 or 3,000 generations. So that's the difference between how we view that amazing world in the southwest of Tasmania. It is beautiful and we do care for it. We need to celebrate that we've always been there back at the beginning of time.
We're still here, we're still practising culture, respecting traditions, doing what's right for the country and for us. When I go out on country, I say to people, I become whole again. I reconnect back to who I am and where I've come from, and that strengthens me.
Here we are as living, walking, breathing people who have memories in our DNA that go back at least 36,000 years. We are the oldest living people on Earth. Our cultures are the oldest cultures on Earth. That is very remarkable, and I think that's a joy to tell the rest of the world.
Before we enter the caves, a traditional ceremony will cleanse our spirits to welcome us to the underworld.
So caves were the places where our people went for warmth and shelter and to conduct ceremonies. So it is important to prepare country for our arrival, to go into sacred places. And so we want to smoke the land and to take away any of the bad spirits and prepare ourselves. Ochre was used in the Ice Age to paint hand stencils on the walls of caves. So ochre is really important as a ceremonial material, and that cleanses us, and it also allows us to honour our ancestors using material that they used all over, from the top of their head to the tip of their toes.
Even older than this story of human habitation, the World Heritage Citation for Tasmania includes reference to an ancient spider of particular significance. It is one of the oldest still living Australians, and this is the start of our journey to meet it. A cave is a space within rock that is at least partly large enough to allow human movement. Although many cave animals make use of much smaller spaces between caverns that we can't access.
Tasmanian caving, yeah, that was where I sort of graduated from caving locally in New South Wales, and got all a bit small for me here, and I had to go out and look at bigger and better caves.
A spider that's the size of a dinner plate doesn't bother me. A cave does.
Spiders are interesting and caves are delightful.
And Lee just disappeared like a contortionist around this corner. And so I dived in and followed him.
My first date was in a cave.
Well, I haven't been, really caving, but I've gone into a cave.
Almost 5 years later, and I'm still with him, so I'd say it's a pretty good place to go.
Because you're in a dark, contracted place, there's water dripping on your head, you can't see properly, and there's gigantic spiders around you.
In the darkness, I still see the boy's face.
I've been caving for 63 years.
I've certainly never, abseiled down into the unknown like that.
I've caved on every continent there is.
To put your body through all that torture, basically.
There's an obvious exhilaration in being an explorer. We're seeing something that no one else has seen before.
And that's the real lure of it, just finding new things.
Well, there's lots of different caves out there in the world. Most of them are formed in rock, although it's worth noting that some have actually formed in glaciers as a result of meltwater flows in the ice mass. People are probably most familiar with those that have developed in cliff faces or rocky areas as a result of weathering and erosion of minerals out of the cliff face, just producing small rock shelter type caves. There's also others that are formed by the collapse of rocks down hillsides, and it just leaves a big jumble of rocks with spaces in between. There's also a category of caves that form in lava when a volcano erupts. If the lava is sufficiently fluid, you get what's called a lava flow. The ones in Tasmania that most people are probably familiar with are caves formed in limestone that are developed by water that dissolves away the key mineral in limestone, calcium carbonate, carries it off in solution. As a result of that process, you end up with a system of underground drainage, and when these caves develop to sufficient size, they become enterable by people.
Karst is a term to describe soluble rock types, such as limestone, that dissolve to leave a cavity. Karst caves are the most common form of caves and are riddled throughout the Tasmanian landscape. Water and carbon dioxide combine to dissolve and enlarge great caverns in karst rock, often producing beautifully twisted rock structures and shapes hidden in the dark. These are the caves that are filled with beautiful rock decorations, or speleothems. These include stalactites on the roof, which drip and start to form stalagmites on the floor. When they join together, they form a column. A very thin stalactite with water running through its centre is a straw. There are also many other unusual geomorphic features, all of them delicate, slow-growing and fragile.
There's a whole range of different speleothems. It's not as simple as stalactites and stalagmites. There's a whole range of other ones as well. They're very attractive. They're quite curious features. Some of them are enormous, but they're also scientifically very valuable because they carry with them a chemical signal that can tell us quite a lot about climate, and it's also possible to date these things. You effectively can get a climate record and a date, and a climate record and a date. So some stalagmites are almost like big paleothermometers. They give us a climate record that goes way back beyond anything we can hope to have from human records.
New caves and cave systems continue to be discovered, and our knowledge of caves and cave species is continually improving. Our knowledge of caves is not just due to the efforts of scientists, but also due to dedicated bands of cave explorers from a wide range of careers and backgrounds around the globe. These are the people who can work safely in these fragile environments.
So within the Tasmanian landscape, finding a new cave is not as easy as it used to be, but it's still not particularly challenging. There are blank spots on the map where we know there's limestone. A lot of the karst in the rest of the world is alpine karst, where there's essentially no vegetation, or the vegetation is 2 inches tall. A lot of our karst is in dense rainforest. So you've got deep soil profiles and fallen trees and leaves everywhere. So actually stumbling across a cave in the first place can be quite a challenge. You can go somewhere that you know people have walked past 100, 200 times over the last 20 years and all of a sudden you find something just because you decided to go left of that tree and not right of that tree.
What we see on the surface might only be the tip of an iceberg, and it might be a very large cave that goes right back into a hillside, or it might only go for a couple of metres.
Itsy wincy spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed poor Itsy out.
Arachnologists frequently joke that anywhere you are on this planet, you're within 7 feet of a spider.
I can't tell you what that feeling is like when you're floating along the Amazon, say, and suddenly you feel something thump, quite sort of heavier than you would want on the back of your neck.
It's never a relaxing thing, I think, when you come across a spider that you are not aware is there.
Even if you wake up and it's walking over your face, try to believe that it's not your enemy.
6 in the morning or something, and I had this sense that I should wake up, and there was something moving, and I looked, and there was a funnel web spider on my pillow. On my pillow. This is the Australian wake-up call.
And the little spider crawls across the concrete and go, "Ah, Nan, look at Charlotte, Nan, it's Charlotte." And Nan just stomps it with a black leather shoe and just grinds it up. Horrifying. I guess spiders are a better judge of character than I am, because for my first marriage, the spiders used to go into the bed and attack my first husband.
My second encounter was a tarantula. That's when I went to go visit Puerto Rico, and that was kind of fun because I kind of threw it at my grandfather, and I got the ass whooping of a lifetime.
I thought he was a cool guy, but the spiders knew different.
The TV producers promised me that they wouldn't have any of the spiders there to sort of demonstrate how scared we were, but they did. All you can see is me doing like a 180 backwards over a bookcase, landing on the floor and being attended to by St John's ambulance.
A siren's song drew me past them all to the cave entrance. The entrance to the cave is home and hearth to ancient creatures, but a place of doom for the unwary. The unadapted, falling into its unexpected jaws, cannot survive. Unwittingly, they tumble to their doom, devoured, rotted, and some become part of the very rock.
Caves are divided into 4 zones. The location and extent of each zone varies according to the individual structure of each cave, including the size, number, and shape of its entrances and passages. The 4 cave zones are an entrance zone or mouth, where surface and underground environments meet and conditions are very variable. A twilight zone, where light steadily diminishes but temperature remains variable. A transition or middle zone, which is in complete darkness but still under the influence of outside environmental effects, mostly via stream or air currents. The deep cave or dark zone, a long way from any entrance, stable in temperature and high humidity, and where evaporation is negligible.
When you go to a cave entrance, and you're just in that interface between leaving the outside world, and of course you're in the bush, it's usually nice and quiet, and you just slip into the underground, it's just the most, it's just the most beautiful space.
Caves are not as empty or barren as they appear. Life finds a way to survive in these places, but cave fauna is often small, cryptic, sparse, and hidden in nooks and crannies that are too small for easy human access. Animals are classified in groups according to how they relate to the cave environment. Plants may grow heavily up to a cave entrance, but start to disappear as light fades.
Caves provide shelter, and so some animals simply stumble into them. They're found in there accidentally, they wander in, they wander out again. They're not really cave animals, but sometimes they're found there.
Light, temperature and humidity all vary in the entrance zone due to the influence of the surface world. For surface animals, it becomes progressively harder to survive as they move deeper into the twilight zone and beyond. They are classified as accidental cave animals. Many end up embedded in the rock, with their skeletons becoming permanent cave features in the beautiful and twisted structures at the gates of the underground world. The temperature of a cave sits at the average annual temperature of the region in which the cave is found. In Tasmania, that is 9 degrees centigrade. This means caves are cooler than their surrounds in summer, but warmer in winter. Airflow and humidity around a cave entrance will vary accordingly, with colder, denser air either intruding or extruding from a cave entrance, depending on the time of year. This is a phenomenon known as cave breathing. No light means no green plant growth, and so caves are food and nutrient poor. The main sources of food are now the bodies, eggs, or droppings of other animals that come into the cave, materials that fall or are washed in through entrances or streams, or roots that grow into a cave in search of water. This is pure darkness, a place where there is no ambient light, no opportunity for eyes to adjust to the darkness. A completely disorienting world where other senses, sound, touch, smell, must dominate. Nothing is visible, but in the quiet, you can hear things around you.
I pass into the Twilight Cavern. It is a place of beauty and transit. I'm surrounded. They're everywhere, on every surface, the scuttling horde. They surround me in the dark, voraciously hungry, marching on their stomachs.
Troglodytes are a group of cave animals that use the cave for shelter on a regular basis, but migrate from the cave to the outside world. So very often they will spend the daytime during the cave and then creep out at night to do their business.
Globally, bats are the dominant troglodytes, and their droppings, or guano, are a major source of food within caves. But bats are not commonly found in Tasmanian caves. Instead, their role is filled by enormous colonies of cave crickets, crawling on every surface in the dark. They congregate in large colonies in the roof of caves.
Cave crickets are very abundant in Tasmanian caves, and they're a large animal. with very long antennae, which helps them find their way in the dark.
Cave crickets are omnivores, and a large portion of the population leaves the cave each night to feed on the plants and invertebrates that they find on the forest floor. These voracious animals then return to the cave. Female crickets have a large fang-shaped ovipositor at the end of their bodies, which they use to bury their eggs in the silt of the deep cave. Crickets may be the top troglodytes in Tasmanian caves, but they are not the top of the food chain, in turn providing food through their droppings, eggs and bodies to other creatures that live underground.
But in the twilight and its darkest corners, a permanent residence, waiting stealthily. The scuttling army of crickets marches towards its own dark destiny. The siren's song calls me past the banquet. It is time to go deeper.
My reaction to spiders.
So I've always had a fear of spiders, but I think it's because my older sister had a fear of spiders.
My friends have uninvited themselves for my birthday parties because I have a tarantula.
I've had tarantulas crawl across my hand, all over me. Love it. Love spiders.
Never seen a tarantula before. It was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's so gross also.
I quite like spiders, actually. They're nice, they're good. They eat bugs and things, don't they? They eat the nasty things, so I like them. I like a spider, man.
People judge me by my scary appearance. I think a lot of people unfairly judge spiders by their appearance as well.
Tickle spider, tickle spider, tickle spider.
That I really genuinely am phobic of spiders, whereas a lot of people say they are, but really what they mean is they don't like them very much.
I traveled to Cambodia, and there we got to eat tarantulas.
I mean, they're cool in a creepy way. They're kind of one of those things like goth people.
You can definitely taste all the hairs. That's the strangest part. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a very stringy chicken.
I have no idea. I've never had a spider go into any part of my body. And I want to keep it that way.
And I have people that write me from all over the world and say, I used to be afraid, but you know, if you can do it, I can do it.
Spiders brought me out of my shell. I now give talks in front of hundreds of people. I probably never would have been able to do that years ago. So in some ways, spiders really sculpted my life and changed it for the better.
Her siren song draws me into galleries of wonder. Drip, drip, drip. The timekeeper of this underworld. The slow drip of the water counterpoints the ages-long formation of the rock. The river runs rapidly through the underworld. Glowworm galleries light my way.
Caves are places of illusion. What looks like an expansive starry sky is all thanks to glowworms, as the torchlight reveals.
Glowworms are beautiful creatures. Have you ever been outside on a starry night and you look up and go, wow, that is just beautiful? I was awestruck when I went into a cave and I looked up and it looked like the same, except it was a cold blue, beautiful light.
Glowworms are troglophiles. Troglophiles are animals that can live their entire life cycle in caves without having to return to the surface. Although they can survive on the surface in cool, dark and humid habitats, such as rotting logs in rainforests or under overhanging riverbanks and bridges.
There's 9 species of glowworm. There's 1 species in New Zealand and 8 species in Eastern Australia, one of which is the Tasmanian species.
There was a big split between the Australian and New Zealand glowworms. Their history goes back many, many millions of years. The Tasmanian glowworm characteristics show it's more related to the New Zealand glowworm.
Common names can be misleading. Glowworms are the larval stage of a special type of fly. It is the larval stage in the glowworm life cycle that hunts and feeds. Once they become adults, they will not eat again before they die.
These immature stages, we call them larvae, are long-lived. They'll live for months to perhaps over a year. The larvae form a pupa and then an adult comes out. The adults only live for about 7 days. All they do is fly and find a mate and lay eggs. They're about the size of a big mosquito. But it's the immature stage, the larvae, that produce the beautiful displays that we see in these caves.
While darkness can be a danger to many animals, in caves, light can also be a deadly trap. Glowworms are predators, cleverly using light to hunt.
Insects that normally live in surface streams emerge in a cave. They're lost in a sense. All they can see is the light of the glowworm. Like most insects, they're attracted to light. They fly into the light and get caught and eaten by the glowworm.
Insects into the cave and they'll often see the lights and fly up into the glowworms. They're called threads or snares, and then you land on the glowworm's dinner plate.
The larvae construct an ingenious hammock-like nest from which they extend multiple hunting lines of sticky mucus, creating the strand blob by blob.
It comes from the saliva glands. It's produced in their mouth, and then they also regurgitate mucus from their stomach. So you've got these silk threads with little mucus drops.
For an insect, this is a hanging forest of sticky death traps.
A glowworm snare with light coming from the side or behind, you can see that it's made up of many, many lines of silk with these tiny mucus droplets on it. The flying insect, because it's got appendages like wings and legs, they're all going to get stuck up, and so the more it moves, the more stuck it gets basically, until they struggle for a while and then they often stop moving. The glowworm will often retreat a little bit when something hits its web, and then it starts to glow very brightly because the vibration actually excites the glowworm and it glows more brightly. And then it moves towards the part of the web where the insect is hanging.
Tranquil for but a moment, once caught, the insect is elevated millimetre by millimetre to its certain doom.
Obviously, they're very sensitive to movements in the snare that they've got, so they know where to go. They pull up the right line and they just hang their body out a bit, grab the web, pull it up, swallow that web, go down, grab more, and so they do this repeatedly. So you see the insect just elevates up until it's right up against the glowworm's mucus tube that it lies in, and then the glowworm will just go in and start biting, start feeding. So they're quite vicious. They've got big mandibles, large mouth parts.
Any insect is fair game, Even adult glowworms are eaten by the larvae of their own species. The glowworm glow comes from the Malpighian tubules at the end of the glowworm. They can turn the glow on and modulate the brightness to attract prey. They can also turn the glow off to conserve energy, an amazing feat for another reason. They produce light without generating heat.
We discovered that the glowworms were synchronizing to each other. Because they're clustered in a colony, it seems that they match each other's glowing. We think that they've got to sort of dim as well to conserve energy so that they can glow more brightly. And we think that this daily cycle is tied into when prey are available in the cave. So this communication ability was pretty unheard of. And it got us into an area called collective behaviour, where groups of animals do things at the same time. Like, they're only insects, but you think about lions that might hunt in a pack. Well, I think glowworms are doing the same thing. By glowing simultaneously very brightly, the colony as a whole has a higher likelihood of getting prey into that colony, and it's possible that different colonies might be competing with each other, or they might be more visible from a different part of the stream and attract different insects from different parts of the stream. So it's quite an advanced behaviour for what's such a really simple insect.
Due to the star-like splendour of such displays, glowworms are major tourist attractions in Tasmania and New Zealand.
I know there are traps here, but her call is stronger than memory or fear, and I'm lured past them all.
What sort of nutter strokes spiders? And is that a problem in the arachnid world?
Well, the cinema loves creepy crawlies. Spiders make good, not just monsters, but good totems for monsters. Shelob, the giant spider in the Lord of the Rings films, it's actually one of the best giant spiders on screen.
Well, friends and family know me well enough to warn me if there's a film, so I haven't been to see like the latest Hobbit movie, for example, because there's a spider in that. They'll turn the corners over on pages in books for me, like in one of the Harry Potter books there was like a big bit about spiders, so they turned that so I knew to avoid that.
Here's the problem with arachnophobia and eight-legged freaks is if you don't have arachnophobia, it's not a scary movie. If you do, there is no way you'd pay money to see it. Quandary.
Travelling deeper, our journey has reached the deep zone, a place where temperature is stable and humidity is so high that surface animals cannot survive. Insects are so successful on the surface because they have overcome the big challenge of living on land, maintaining water levels in a constantly dehydrating environment. But the deep cave is so humid that adaptations to conserve water work against them. It is constantly hydrating, and surface insects take on more water than their bodies can shed. They effectively drown in the air itself.
Now I am in the deep cave. The darkness is absolute and heavy. The air so humid that many surface dwellers would not survive it. I cannot stay long in this black lair. It is home to the most hidden and most weird of the subterranean parade.
This is the home of the troglobytes, animals that have shed their water-retaining capacity to survive in the deep zone. The price is that they now depend on these highly humid environments and will dehydrate if they leave. Troglobytes are obligate cave dwellers, meaning that they can only live in caves and cannot live anywhere else. Many troglobytes are aquatic or groundwater dwellers. They are also known as stygobionts. These include colourless variations of anaspides, the mountain shrimp, a true living fossil unique to Tasmania.
One of Tasmania's lesser known iconic animals is the mountain shrimp. Anaspides is its scientific name. It's an animal that specialist biologists beat a path to Tasmania to see. That's because it represents a stage in the evolution of the crustacea that is basic to all of the higher crustaceans, all of the shrimps and crabs and lobsters. Now, it's only found in Tasmania. Anaspides is found in mountain tarns and streams, but it's also found in caves. And like so many cave animals, they show cave adaptations, such as the loss of their pigment, as they've lived a life now completely underground.
There are also colourless cave-dwelling fish and other aquatic crustaceans which forage in streams and pools.
They often fill a role of shredding vegetation. Mostly they feed on dead plant material.
To live in the deep cave, troglobytes display a range of changes in body form, physiology and behaviour compared to their surface cousins. Species that fly on the surface may no longer have wings, or visual hunters on the surface may no longer have eyes. These adaptations are called troglomorphisms. Troglobytes display different mixes and degrees of these adaptations depending on how long a species has been isolated in a cave. There is no point spending energy growing intricate eyes that will be useless in complete darkness, or producing pigment that will never be seen. On the surface, colouring may be used for camouflage, warning signs, attracting mates, or protecting against ultraviolet light. These considerations are irrelevant in the deep cave. Cave animals often have elongated limbs to reach further into places they can't see, and they tend to be notably larger or smaller than their surface cousins. Larger bodies can reach further, but smaller ones don't need as much food. Troglobytes tend to have low metabolic rates, meaning they grow more slowly, can survive for long periods without food, and have increased longevity, provided they survive the predators hidden in the dark.
Death waiting to pounce from crevices. Aquatic senses awaiting their cue to kill. Danger is near. Fear pierces the dark. Even the water is penetrated by it, its residents compelled to vanish.
I often get accused of terrorising generations of children because of the spiders. I have to say, it wasn't me just doing it. I was just a junior assistant on it, but people do remember Boris.
It was a huge moment in my childhood. The giant spiders of Metabedus 3 had a real impact, I think, on my generation.
Just even though it's not in the best condition anymore, you know, it's a 40-year-old prop. It just freaked me out then, it just still freaks me out now.
That photograph of Sarah Jane and, of course, the subsequent Target book version of that and the stripy top, I mean, it's absolutely seared into people of my age.
I do think that spiders have a whole dark side, but I also think that there's another, spiders are wise and patient, like Charlotte and Charlotte's Web is so incredibly patient and sort of a teacher and willing to kind of lead other animals and humans on this kind of journey.
I don't think any child that's ever read that book would then go flushing a spider down a drain.
Charlotte's Web is a very good example, one of the most popular children's stories. And we can't avoid it, Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
If anything has tried to turn the image of the spider around, it's the character of Spider-Man.
It's a rare reclamation of the idea of it. The spider is the cool thing to be bitten by.
There's also Anansi. So Anansi comes from African folklore, and it's a character who often takes the form of a spider, and he is oftentimes a trickster, but he's meant to embody all knowledge and all stories. And I also will say, after having this conversation, that I like the duality of the spider. I think it's really great that it can be both things, this embodiment of stories and wisdom, and also eerie and creepy.
Although our journey has taken us further underground, it is important to recognise that caves are not isolated from the surface, but directly depend on it.
Caves are not a separate underground world. They're an extension of the surface world, and they're susceptible to disturbance because of what happens on the surface. It's a little bit like if you bung a whole lot of junk down your kitchen sink, you'll probably block it up and have problems. Well, the same applies in karst landscape. In the past in Tasmania, till relatively recent times, concern for caves tended to focus just on the cave itself and didn't recognise the part that the overall system in which it occurred played. So you'd get things like a cave reserve that would consist of a little square around a cave entrance, but didn't do anything to protect the catchment of the stream that ran into the cave.
Land clearing may disrupt the amount or quality of food carried in by streams, gravity, roots, accidentals or troglodytes. It may also alter cave airflow or breathing, leading to changes in humidity or other atmospheric conditions essential to cave life. And the extent of different cave zones may shift. Numbers of cave visitors may be limited, or pathways marked within parts of a cave to limit breakages or damage to sensitive areas. Within the cave, there are sensitive sections where specific additional rules apply.
As you can see, there's flowstone all about, and it's all very clean, so we'll just take our shoes off and our overalls off and put some wetsuit socks on, and that way will just help keep it clean.
The oil from hands can stain rock formations, and even the carbon dioxide in breath from large groups can dissolve karst rock in restricted spaces. Tasmania has some of the deepest and most spectacular caves in Australia, and some have restricted access due to their high conservation value and the fact that only the most experienced cavers can safely access them.
There's various ways that we can stop caves being damaged. One of them is to be a bit more sensible in how we conduct ourselves on the ground surface. When people go into caves, it's also important that, particularly where they're in caves that haven't been developed and hardened for tourists, that they know how to conduct themselves in a way that minimises damage.
Caves are beautiful but fragile and dangerous environments. Caving clubs can advise on both caving safety and minimum impact caving codes to protect these delicate places.
Spiders are a great tool for getting people interested in science and nature.
I never knew that I could end up making a living looking at spiders.
Ecology and sort of understanding animal behaviour was sort of the track that I wanted to go.
Finding out something new is brilliant.
I've always been passionate about science. I love science, and I think everyone should love science.
I've studied spiders in the Arctic, I've studied spiders near Montreal, and every species has a tale to tell.
It's nice to see this great profusion of species and then yet similarities between clusters.
The things that I guess people didn't like as much because they're not furry and cuddly, and they were really interesting because unless you really get down close, you really wouldn't know too much about them.
There's some amazing work going on in the last, or has gone on in the last decade or so.
I'm asking almost the same sorts of questions with these spiders as I was asking with the primates.
I leave this strange place to keep following the siren's song. I hear her, I follow her. I move away from the deep, pulled by her call. The signs of her presence emerge around me, growing.
Amid all of these bizarre animals and the interlinked ecology of the caverns, Tasmanian caves are overseen by still-living, giant prehistoric spiders with leg spans the size of dinner plates.
Oh yes, they are big. I mean, even, by spider standards, most of the spiders on the planet are very small.
Wow, this thing is like, it's everywhere. And it's so big, it's so impressive. It's like such a remarkable species.
Hikmania troglodytes, the Tasmanian cave spider, is the largest spider in Tasmania and one of the largest spiders in Australia, but few people are aware of it.